In this video I'm going to outline what I think some of the major problems are when it comes to traditional CBTi, when it comes to overcoming your insomnia. And I'm going to preface this video by saying I am not in any way, shape or form talking about the person who helped me overcome my own insomnia. Literally there's no one better in the world at helping people with their sleep. I'm talking about the real kind of old school CBTi, which hasn't changed for like 50 years, and I think there's a lot of inherent problems built into it which can cause people a lot of struggle and a lot of suffering, and I'm going to outline what I think the main ones of those are and my alternative approach to CBTi and what I do, which I think is a much better way of doing it based on my own 20 years of insomnia, and so knowing, really having that deep understanding of what insomnia is, and my work with countless clients and the feedback that I get from them as well. And I think probably the core issue of CBTi is that it's very, very good at working on the physiological aspect of insomnia. So it's very good at quickly rebuilding people's patterns of sleep through sleep restriction and helping people build their sleep drive. Traditionally, I don't think it's very good at help people deal with the thought patterns around their sleep and letting go of the control, the obsession, the anxiety around it. And I think actually if it's really strict and really rigid, it actually reinforces this obsession and this control around sleep, which is what insomnia ultimately boils down to, that control, that force, that effort. And bad CBTi, or very old school CBTi, I think can certainly feed into that. And if we break down what I think one of the not so great things about traditional CBTi is that really restrictive sleep restriction, where people, they have to write down everything that they're doing with their sleep. They have to stick to the sleep window rigidly, and if they don't, then everything's going to break, everything's going to explode, and they're never going to break free of their insomnia. And I think really restrictive, hard bedtime restriction is very similar to a really restrictive, hard diet. So yeah, in the short term, you can go on your Atkins where you eat 10 cows for breakfast. You can go on your keto. You can eat nothing but smoothies for a month or two. And yeah, it's all about calories in, calories out. So if you're eating less calories, of course, you're going to lose weight. But is this a sustainable approach to weight loss? Or after you get off this really restrict regime, which nobody can stay on for the rest of their life, are you going to go back to how things were, or are things going to be even worse after that? And in nearly all cases, the answer is yeah, you are going to go back to how things were, because really restrictive diets don't work, and really restrictive bedtime restriction doesn't work either, when it's so hard that it causes you more anxiety, more control, more stress, when literally the only thing it does is it uses a sledgehammer to build your sleep drive so strongly that no matter what, you will sleep. It's not very helpful, because people, if you restrict their sleep enough, no matter what, they will sleep. So in the Navy SEALs, for example, they give people about an hour of sleep a night during what they call Hell Week, which is where they weed out 99% of prospects who want to become a Navy SEAL. They're allowed to sleep for an hour a night. Rest of the time, they're pretty much running, swimming, getting shot at. It doesn't look nice, wouldn't recommend it. And during Hell Week, these people, they could be literally running and they'd be dropping to sleep whilst running. They could be in the middle of the ocean swimming, dropping out. There could be bullets flying over their head, and they will literally drop and they will fall asleep. So yeah, people can be made to sleep no matter what if you restrict their sleep enough, but that doesn't do anything to change the thought patterns. That doesn't do anything to change the control, the obsession, the worry. So I think a much better approach to really rigid bedtime restriction is what I like to use with people, which is a more gentle sleep window where there's not a lot of data analysing, there's not any tracking, and it's a window where I speak to people and say, you know what, we want to get that pattern of sleep real built, but please choose a time which doesn't cause you anxiety, stress and worry. And please always have in the back of your mind, this is not the end goal. I always want you to move away from it and to let go of the sleep window as soon as you possibly can, and move towards going to bed when you feel sleepy and waking up at the same time every single day. So that's always the end goal. So a softer approach to sleep restriction using the sleep window, I find is a lot better, and my clients find it a lot better as well. You know, I've got loads of data of how effective that is, and it works, you know, I think much better than the traditional way of doing it, in my humble opinion. Also, what I really don't like in traditional CBTi is that real kind of strict, if you're not sleeping after 15 minutes, leave the bed in the bedroom, do something boring. I hate that. Please don't do something boring, and then return to bed when you feel sleepy again. This 15 minutes encourages clock watching. It encourages obsession around whether or not it's been 15 minutes. Has it been 10 minutes? It encourages data analysing. Not helpful either. And this insistence that it has to be stimulus control or nothing, because yes, if you've got a huge amount of anxiety, stress and worry attached to the bedroom, leaving the bed in the bedroom when you feel that is helpful. But the end goal of insomnia treatment is to get people just as happy in bed awake as they are asleep. And so I think another way of doing it is counter control, where they sit up in bed and read a book or listen to a podcast. And so I don't think it has to be this all or nothing approach. It doesn't have to be stimulus control or nothing. There's always that room for counter control, which I think is incredibly helpful as well. And so usually when I'm working with someone, if they've got real anxiety, start them with stimulus, move to counter control, and then get them to the stage where they're lying in bed just as happy to be in bed awake as they are asleep, as they do nothing. So I think a softer approach to both the core elements of stimulus control and sleep restriction, in my opinion, works a lot better. But I also think CBTi is lacking in terms of helping people really get to that core root of what insomnia is, that obsession, that control, that anxiety, that worry. And I've seen a lot of CBTi courses saying that, you know, make sure you have that hot bath before bed, and make sure you do these relaxation techniques before bed. Make sure you meditate before bed, which is what Matthew Walker teaches, meditate before bed. And it misses the point, but anything that you do with the express intention of trying to force yourself to sleep is going to backfire, because people with insomnia have already got a laundry list of 1,000 things they're trying to do in order to force themselves to sleep. So I think an approach where you essentially get rid of all the effort, all the 1,000 things people are doing to force themselves to sleep, and actually simplify it and just say to people, do whatever you used to do when you were a good sleeper, or ask the question, is this something that a good sleeper would do or worry about, is a much better approach. So on my approach, TV isn't banned because good sleepers watch TV. Relaxation, meditation, yoga, yeah, 100% that's encouraged, but with the right intention. So nothing that uses force, nothing that uses effort. And I think a lot of what is missed in traditional CBTi is it doesn't do anything to undo the obsession around sleep. So I like to incorporate ACTI, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, and exposure therapy as well. So I like, when I'm helping people with insomnia, to deliberately start when they're towards the end of a treatment doing things which can quote unquote be harmful for their sleep. To have a cup of coffee at 5 p.m, not so they sleep well in the short term, but just to stop insomnia controlling and telling them what they can and can't do. I like people to actively get them to eat late in a restaurant, even though all the evidence says that you shouldn't eat late because you shouldn't be metabolizing food too soon before bed. I like them to do that anyway, just so they get stuck back into their life again. But yeah, I suppose those are the main differences between my work and traditional CBTi. If you really want to know how I get stuck in, how I do it, take a look at all the other videos on my channel. Look at sleepze.com, where you'll find my free sleep program, and of course my step-by-step paid program, which if you're really struggling with insomnia, that is what is going to fix it for you. All right, really hope this video has been helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.